talking about the labor and emerging precarity in the digital economy, because we have a history in 20th century of a lot of labor rights that are given. For example, maximum working hours, minimum wages, maternity leaves, prevention of sexual harassment at workplaces, and all of that. How would that work in the digital workplaces, and what kind of contradictions that are emerging that are kind of we need to be examined from the public policy perspective? So that's also a very important paper. Over to you. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. At the beginning, I would like to thank ISB, BIPP for this wonderful opportunity to come here and present some of the ongoing work that is I'm doing with the government of India, also with the National Human Rights Commissions, and to show some of the lights that is happening here. But I really like the way the panel has been actually conducted. The Professor Jha actually talked about how the emergence of a digital economy in the gaze of a venture capitalist providing input to this industry. Like Anupam has actually elaborated about what is happening actually inside the factory and how the technology embedded like a production system is actually controlling the worker and the workplace. I would like to go beyond the factory and that how it is implications, the way the industry is reconfigured and how it has really impacting the lives of a worker. So there, I would like to ask some questions, the questions that the government is grappling through the policy with the various labor laws and how the work is actually facing. So I would like to put that question that I will end my talk here. So let's go and just contextualize the debate. I know, as we know, that in 2022, the on the technological frontier, India has ranked 43 out of 180 countries, and the jump has been really swift. It means that okay, the access to technology and the technological embeddedness has actually increased, mostly into the retail sectors, and that's where the labor market is also shaping. The way the more and more technological access into the product market, the getting more and more entrenched. So it is also have the implications on the labor market too, because labor is also one factor of production that we discussed in the economics 101. So labor is also one of the component in which they externalizes all the risk and the losses onto the worker. So let's understand, okay, how they actually work. So this year, the ILO is celebrating the future of work, and they are really worried about what will happen to the future of work, especially after the pandemic, where the labor market has seen to be a less resilience to grapple with this problem. Because as you know, at the time of pandemic, labor, especially the platform workers, were seen as an person who will actually spread the like a COVID. So he was traumatized, victimized, and also so much kind of a phobia has been labored upon them. But also on the same time, the government of India was making them an essential service worker also. So this kind of a dilemma where the workers are actually finding for their own presence, where they will be located in the larger the digital economic framework. What is the identity of a worker? Where he actually stand? Will it be stand or will she be stand as an independent contractor, business partner, contingent worker, or we will be called as a cogs in the wheel, so like a gig workers? So this is the larger question that we would like to face. So the future of work, and this is an important question for the public policy that we are actually deliberating upon, that the future of work is very bleak in the sense that the future of work promises the lack of uncertainty of the workers' rights, instability in the incomes, lack of social cohesion, deprivations. So at the one hand, the Indian GDP is actually growing, and you must have seen yesterday's Economic Times. The GDP figures are actually moving ahead. The unemployment rate actually falling down slightly as compared to the previous year. But on the second hand, we are also seeing the government of India is actually providing the free food. It's not a freebie, it's a food subsidy and the food entitlements for the poor. It means that somewhere the technological progress and the GDP advancement are actually happening at the cost of a someone. And who is this someone? These are the workers who are actually driving the India's economy. So digitally mediated platform, this is the new and emerging areas where I would like the young scholars to actually go and get into engage with some of the fundamental questions. Okay, how these technologically mediated platforms are actually altering the typical employer-employee relationship, and what are these implications? As Anupam has pointed out, that when you configure the factory system or the workplace system, it has a larger implications for the society. So these implications is not for the political reasons, but these implications to bring social harmony within the society also. So we call it as a shared prosperity. So as the civilization moves, as the industrialization moves, society maturely grows, and then the wealth is shared between all the countries. So that's what we have learned from the welfare capitalisms, or maybe welfare states in the European Unions, how the society has progressed gradually. So the digital platform economy, this is the puzzle number one. Bring us to the old questions that are they really ensuring us the time wages? It means you work from the 9 to 5 and you get the wages, including the entitlement, or are they really assuring us the piece wages? It means the more you work, the more you get, the less you work, the less you get. So the productivity linked wages, that is where nobody will say that okay, the productivity linked wages are really good, because in the previous speakers, the previous sessions talks about that. In economics we talked about the marginal productivity and the marginal cost, where it has to link with somewhere with the performances. But is it really true with the case of a labor? I can think about land labor, land capital, technology, entrepreneurship, but labor is the quasi fixed factor of productions. You can simply hire him, but it is difficult to fire him. That's where the comes, because it also entails about the constitution's law, rights, and also other frameworks in which the labor as a human is being helping us to for the production processes. This process moving from the time wage to the piece wage is actually moving towards you can disposition from the entitlements. We are disposing the workers from the entitlement, and hence these are actually is a mere tokenisms to allure the workers to get into the industry, and then we use is labor productivity to exploit more and more labor. As you must have seen in 2013 when the Uber actually launched, they were actually burning the cash. 80% of their seed grants were actually burned as a cash to give more and more incentives. And that point of a time, they used to charge 4 to 6% as their commission. But in today's context, I checked last week, so it is now 33% of the total commission. So if they will earn $100, 33 rupees will go to the pockets of the Uber, because they are actually providing the contract. And these are the one it makes making them a more and more vulnerable. And why the law is not actually getting into to protect the worker of to the interest of this worker, for the two reasons. One, Indian economy has never seen the larger shocks. Pandemic gave the larger shocks, and one of the area in which the larger shock helps the existing legal system to revive is the labor legislations. And that's why all the labor laws were diluted at the time when the pandemic was actually going through. The second area in which the external shocks really made the way is that lack of clarity about how the digital economy should be regularized. So that's the second area in which where we don't have the governance model in which that we can actually regulate the labor economy. So I just wanted to give you the frictions where the public policy areas can actually come in. If you see the left side, the traditional economy, where the employer-employee relationships, and you can see the overlapping circles. These overlapping circles where the regulation framework will come, and the state as an anchoring point will strike the balance between the employer who brings the capital and the labor who brings the labor productivity and the labor services. So that's where they will strike the balance, and it will ensure the harmonious industrialization. But with the advent of digital economy, or mostly, when we started to give leeway to the labor laws, the power of a state has actually started crumbling, and you will see the forces are actually coming from both the sides. Where the platform wanted to forcefully minimize the role of the government, that's what we call the minimum government and the maximum governments. So you shrink the role of a government. And secondly, the worker is trying to find out the way where they can actually restore the social dialogue between the state and the employer. And that's where these two are the contesting point that are happening. So many trade unions and the laborers are actually contesting because of that space where they used to have negotiation has actually failed miserably over the last 20 years. Last Indian Labour Conference, which is the highest body where the employer-employee actually come and discuss, and they discussed about the problem, has held prior to 2014. After that, no ILC has happened in India. Now, why the state is actually withering away? The dilemma for the state is that they have turned the blind eye towards the regulations, to be called the de facto regulations, where the law has actually been implemented, not the law that looks very nice in the black letters law. The second areas where the strategy went wrong, the prescription to the labor reform went wrong, is the linking the labor market with the product market. So labor market has started responding to the need of the product markets, and that's where the things actually went wrong. In the sense that as the product conditions or the market condition will change, employer will fire or hire. We call it the adjustment cost. The adjustment cost becomes the main parametrics or main metrics in which the performance of the platform will be evaluated based upon that, how sensible and responsible they are with the cost. Second, the role of embedded technology. The technology is not only providing jobs to the company, to the platform workers. Technology also providing surveillance. They're monitoring their performances, and secondly, they are linking not only the consumption aspect but also from where they're actually taking the trading. So these are the interlinked technologies are not able to. The state is not able to figure it out how to control these embedded tech platforms where the state has a very limited knowledge and very limited engagements, and that's how the labor market has actually gone completely like a fettered way where they are not able to control it. And the last one, why the state is reluctant, the case the Miss Navika ji actually asked, why we are actually having this inward approach to the policy. The state is reluctant to deal with the capital. When I'm using the word reluctant, in the sense we are been afraid that the capital might fly away from the India, and that's why the state is not actually encouraging the shared prosperity interest. Rather, they are protecting the interest of the capital, because the reluctancy comes because we are afraid that the capital might flight away from India, and that's where. But we are not actually tapping the potentials that we have, despite having the unbalanced economic structure, because we moved the transition of the Indian economy has gone from the agriculture to the service. The industrialization phase we had only for the 3 decades. We never had that much larger period of the industrialization. And that's where we are not able to accommodate unlimited supply of labor who are migrating from the rural areas to the urban area, and they are getting into the job. So four kind of a problems that we are actually saying. First, these kind of allied areas where we are creating the situations where workers are being misclassified, and since you misclassified worker, lack of entitlement, so they are at the risk of despotism on demand. So the technology control their work, and who controls the technology? It's the company. They are actually there. Then risk-seeking behavior. Employee workers are engaged into the risk-seeking behavior because they wanted to earn more money so that they can actually have a decent life. So a risk-seeking behavior is actually getting into that, and it's turned out to be a negative sum game. So I'll just quickly run. So already the steps in which how their institutionalized precarity has already been said by the Professor Jha. So first, it's about like a good guesses in which you burn the cash, you attract the more customers, you retain and you outperform the existing players, and then you try to monopolize that market share, and then you lease the company so that the companies can be raise the funds from the capital market. In this case, at each stage, the risk has been exposed or externalized on the worker, because only the workers can actually willing to work at the lower wages. Why they're actually willing to work at the lower wages? Because there are no outside employment employee relationship action. So who are these workers? Informal gigs and platform. So the company says that we are bringing flexibility to the Indian economy. Yes, flexibility they are bringing. People can work when they want. People can leave when they want. But this flexibility is not for the worker. This flexibility is for the tech companies, where they can decide how much workers they want. They can decide how much order they can give. They can decide how much wages they can pay. And they are price sensitive to the customer. So it is the customer's preferences who decides the internal reconfiguration of the company's cost, and then whatever is left out, the residual amount is being externalized onto the worker. At the end of the day, workers barely earn 500 to 600 rupees in a day. And this is not me. Even if you're actually taking any cab, just ask driver informally how much, and you ask him to just show the app and just see his commissions. So you will come to know on that. So what are the policy challenges? I have wrote down the 4 policy challenges. These are emerging and still we are very contesting. Recognizing who are the workers. And then there are 3 landmark judgments from the Supreme Courts. Legal jurisprudence. Are these workers, if we accept the definitions, can we really invoke ILO's fundamental principles and right to work conventions? And then Industrial Dispute and Industrial Relation Act. This is a historicization of the labor regulations, which is an area in which public policy scholars can come. How at the different context the public policy has shaped, not only through the bureaucracy, but also we call it the cross-fading effect. Now, the Labor Ministry's agenda has not been decided by the Labor Ministry, but it has been decided by the FICCI and the Ministry of Company Affairs. So as you can see how the other ministries, not only about the executive and the bureaucracy, but it's also about the different institutions that shaping the face of a public policy. That is another area in which how the external forces can change the face of it. So as you can see, the employment is going down, GDP is going up. So what are the road that we have less travels? And then I will just highlight by the 2030 we will have almost like 23.8 million gig workers or the platform workers, and they're actually the presence will going. So these are the policy challenges. One, the regulations. Which regulation should we bring take driven regulation or should we bring labor driven regulation? That's the one thing. Second, compliances. Should we make self compliances as a norms where the company can self comply, or should we bring compliances through the bureaucracy? That's the another area. Yeah. The tech oversight, like who should be controlling the tech, like lot of facial recognition technologies and also productivity monitoring technology. What should be the modus operandi of this tech, which are actually controlling the future of a work and the present time of the work also. And then last and most important thing, where here we have gone little bit of lawlessness. So the role of a state in terms of the government, what would be the role? With this note, I would like to stop here and I would like to take more questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Saptal. As he has rightly identified that there are new challenges as labor and not recognized as labor. Even if you're recognized as labor, that after pandemic, there's work from home, and most of the public policies that we had, very strong policy for the labor protection has become ineffective. Just to give you an idea, the sexual harassment, prevention of sexual harassment policy says that if any unwanted things that are said to you in your workplace, that is, kind of punishable. But if it is said to you, if you're working from home, there's no policy on that. There's no clarity on that. So a lot of nuances are emerging, which are supposed to be looked into. We started 5 minutes late, so I'm assuming that we have 5 minutes more to conclude. Can we have quick 2 or 3 questions? Yeah.
Okay. Hi, everyone. I think. Yep. I have just 2 points to make. Thanks, Professor Shashi, for the.
Can you please keep it very quick?
Yeah. First of all, Professor Rahul. So you discussed about lack of entitlement in the gig economy for the laborers, and then you compare at the cost of public distribution system and free meals. These are 2 different policy aspects, and they do not combine together. I think that's one aspect that you have to look for research. And Dr. Anupam Guha, yeah. So your part was interesting, but then you classify the workers in gig economy, the unpaid laborers, users who are generating data all the time across the globe. That's something which we not discuss. We skip that part. That's something Fair Work at the Oxford Institute they are looking into. And that's something that needs to be taken care of.
Yeah, let's take 2 more questions and then we can answer.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
After him.
Digital economy is also leading to digital politics in the sense that elections are being fought by WhatsApp and Facebook. That is one. And when you are talking about retreat of the state is at the international level where there are United Nations, SAARC, regional groupings, and at national level where it is central government, and at federal level where it is the state government, and at local level where we have institutions, municipalities. So this retreat of the state will help whom? Will it help the people or the capitalists, or it will help all of them? If this retreat of the state can help all stakeholders, then it will be a good idea.
Okay, that's more of an observation. Yes, one last question. I think we could. Yeah.
Thank you, panelists. My question is to Professor Jha. You spoke about VCs being agnostic to ethical and moral concerns and you took the example of Theranos, even with what's happened with FTX. What do you think we could do in terms of ensuring that, since VCs have the power to influence a lot of practices that are going to happen, what can we do to ensure that they keep ethics and moral in place while they influence those practices today? Because with the boom of startups, this risk would be run. If it's happening in the US, I don't see why India wouldn't face it.
Yeah, thank you. So can we have 1 minute each for all of you? Professor.
Yeah, I appreciate Tariq's questions. Yeah, I'll just give you, okay, under Article 21 and directive principles, every citizens are entitled to right to work as well as right to livelihood and then all the social benefit. When I use the word called how the digital or platforms are institutionalized in precarity. There is a one reason, because if you don't consider them as a worker, so then they are not entitled for the social security and other legal entitlement. As a result of that, it impact on their livelihood and income. So as the income decreases, then they become more and more poorer because of the double burden that actually been exposed because of they have actually buying the trend, and then become they poor. Then the state provides from the other hand freebies, the so-called freebies, the welfare entitlement, give them a more and more ration. So why argument is simple: instead of giving them like a too much like a free subsidy on the food, make them legally more empowered so that they don't have to go through that line and they can earn their more livelihood. And this is the way that we have seen. Like we did the survey during the COVID, and there are 3 rounds, which is available online also. There, Ola and Uber drivers, literally they have to stand in the PDA shop to get, all the subsidized food. 2 rupees rice, 1 rupee, 3 rupees, all the subsidized food. The reason is that we are making the labor market more and more susceptible and vulnerable because there are no laws that protect the interest of the worker. And that's why these are not two things, they are interlinked, they are overlapping with each other.
Yeah, Professor Anupam.
So that was a very good question because it allows me to rant on a thing on which my